can go ahead.
I was talking about these integration opportunities. These are the different data touch points. Are you able to see now?
Yeah, I'm using the phone.
Okay. Okay. This is the different data touch points which is open for having the integration in place. And then I think this one is a very self-explanatory. This what you see here is okay. The ERP applications, which you can see that OLF, user, LUDs, and then here the from the transaction data perspective, these job templates, locations, position, departments, those kind of information also can be used for data integration.
Okay.
In Taleo, we have a certain limitation when it comes to exchanging the data and certain tasks or activities which you can perform. You can see that organization it is available for creating a new one and then updating it, and then you can even move the organization and even delete physically. There are certain entities which may not give you flexibility in terms of updating, deleting, moving the organization or moving the location or job fields. Actually, this one is with a low, previous slide, and in a recent release, now even the location and job field can be moved as well.
Can you please explain what do you mean by move? Like, for example, an organization department, like let's say HR department, the parent organization was corporate services.
Okay.
Now the parent organization is, let's say, operations. So when you say move, it's like moving from a parent organization to another parent organization. Is that what move is?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. All right. Update is updating the details, like the name, for example, these things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Insert is creation. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the technical architecture, I believe there are two.
Sorry, Mr. Levin. Back to the previous slide. There is the deletions. There is physical and logical.
Yeah.
Please tell us the difference.
Physical is completely delete. You will not be able to search or search those elements in the system. But logical is it's kind of a delimit, or what do you say? Just an inactive kind of a delete, which you can find it in the database.
Okay, I understand. It's like an end date thing.
Yeah.
Like an ABS end date. Okay. Yeah. Just one another one. Let's say I'm deleting an organization. Does it like let's say it's used in some of the requisition, does the system, before trying deleting it, will it check for that? Like, will it validate? So for example, I'm trying to delete physically. You said physically means you're deleting the whole thing from the system. Let's say I'm trying to delete HR organization, okay, or location Bangalore, okay, and it's used in one of the requisitions. It's used here and there. Will the system validate, or automatically it will delete anyways?
It actually validates. It will not allow you to delete unless you give the replacement organization unit ID. When you delete it, it says that there are elements tagged to this specific organization, and please provide the replacement for this organization. So if some the parent organization has to be removed, you have to move those children to the new one. Then only you will be able to delete that. That's how the business logic is.
All right. And what is LUDFs? I'm sorry to ask.
Large user defined selection list.
Oh, okay. It's a selection list. All right. Yeah. Perfect. Okay.
Taleo provides two type of integration service. One is we call it as Taleo Connect Broker, which is hosted by Taleo. It will be installed in Taleo server. They will take care of everything. Anything let's say you want to add some custom fields to the import or export, it has to it has to be done by the Oracle team. We will not have access to it. And the other opportunity is Taleo Connect Client, which it's a self-service integration where customer hosted, where you install it, you create the scripts, you manage everything. Okay.
Okay, and usually based on what do you make the decision on which way to go?
Okay.
Like when you use the first one, when you use the second one, and so on.
Let's say it's an organization of 5,000 employees, and they don't have a proper IT team as such. There is no resource, and if you have a Taleo, and if you go with TCB, since you will be paying yearly fees to Taleo for their maintenance.
Okay.
And you don't have to worry about the training a guy, hiring one person for just for the integration and all. And since instead of paying the new resource and risk in terms of expertise, training him, it's better you give it to Oracle, so they manage it, everything.
Okay, for a fee, of course.
Yeah, and if it is a TCC, it depends. If the organization has a complete IT structure, they have a ERP team, and it's a huge organization, and they want their own team to manage these kind of integrations. And if they have skills, if they are ready to invest on resource and all, then yeah, they will go for the TCC approach.
Okay. Of course, we are covering the TCC. The TC, you call the first one Tele Connect server, do you call it TCB or TCS?
TCB, Taleo Connect Broker.
Okay.
And the second one is the Taleo Connect Client.
Okay. Alright. So in TCB, Oracle will handle everything. Even as vendors, we don't have to do any configuration. They will do it from A to Z for a fee.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a different SOW again, and even for they will give you the standard integration touch points, and if you ask for one small change, they ask for the additional cost for that. That's the way it is. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
I'll move to the next one. Yeah. This is a integration view of how the data are exchanged between ERP and the Taleo. What you see in the right side is the Taleo server. Here, the Connect client, which actually exchange the data in HTTPS with the secure HTTPS protocol, and we have, as you said, ID is import file and the configuration file, which actually drives the data consumption of the data into the Taleo system.
The columns and what to be gone, what to be.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. And this is for the export. Here you can see that we use the SQ file for export and the configuration file, and the data. It's again we have different opportunities. We can use XML format, CSV, or a text format. It's again everything can be defined in the configuration file.
Okay, and you, from your experience, which type do you use usually?
I prefer CSV file.
Okay, perfect, because that's the only thing we worked on while using data migration. Okay.
It's just a file format. For me, it's go and read it if I need to, if I have some issue in the data file and if I want to read it. I prefer the CSV, but I have a lot of colleagues who they use the text file, and it depends. And sometimes customer prefers to exchange data in text file, and yeah, in that case we have to go with that.
Okay, I understand.
We have three user interface screen where we have design, runtime, and console. Design is a place where you actually define the parameters, file format, and where would the data is coming from, the flows, the versions, the file format. You can see that encoding is UTF-8. This is the standard encoding which used for the integration. Then we have a runtime where you can see the progress of the executed script, which it gives you the graphical view of what is happening, where the process is in, and if something went wrong, you can just looking at this thing, we can go and troubleshoot where it's getting stuck and what is the reason for that. And it usually gives you explanation about what was the reason for the import or export getting failed. And this one is the console where you might have run a lot of queries parallelly, but Taleo runs only one script at a time. So this is a queue. You can see that let's say you have run 3 scripts parallelly. It will execute on the basis of it has a different rule, and it process, and it will give one by one, it will consume the data once it is committed, and then it goes for the second one.
So we have to make sure that we prioritize like for example data entities that before, like for example we have to make sure that we run the employee script, for example, before run the user script. Or for example, we need to run the OLF script before we run the employee script, because we're going to use something like that.
Yeah, the concept is just a technique, or you can say first thing, you have to have a foundation data up to date, right, for any transaction. So you start with the OLF. That is the first script you run on the specific day. Then you go for the department position or those kind of elements, then job codes, templates. Then you get into a transaction data like candidate, requisition, new hire, export. Then the last, I would say, the user. So when we talk about candidate and the user, it is always better we let's say a new hire export has to be done. Once the new hire is done, data went to ERP system. There the candidate has been created. Now there has to be a reverse feed where the candidate was external. Now you have to make the candidate as an internal, so the candidate can access the internal career portal, right? So
exactly.
First thing is the candidate update. Once the candidate has been made updated as an internal candidate with the email ID, username, then the next feed has to come, which is a user, so that the internal candidate will have a user account as well.
Okay, but like in that case, you do the export first to ERP, and then once they update all of his details in the ERP, you send it back and you update it again as internal. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
This slide is actually a very old one. We can have these scripts deployed in different OS as well. But you can only build the TCC scripts in Windows, and if you have a Unix server or application OS, you have to build it in Windows. You test it, then you deploy it in a Unix server. That's how the deployment for Unix works out. Hello?
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just an explanation of what is design console and runtime. I'll move on to there. Okay. Ideally, from here it's more of are you guys already installed TCC in your system?
Yes, we have TCC.
Okay. Okay. Hello. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. Ahmed, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. I logged into the TCC application. Now you can see, this is the login page, home page, you could say. And the first thing you usually do is synchronization of your tool with the server, Taleo server, because you might have created a lot of custom fields, and you might have sorry.
To refresh the UDFs, right?
Yeah, exactly. You already know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just do that. The reason is this is a new zone for me.
One more thing. UDFs, we can use that as well in the integration, right? Is that possible, or?
UDFs can be created, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Now, in case the UDF is using a selection list.
Mm-hmm.
So let me say an example, like legal employers. I have 3 legal employers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I put them in a selection list, and this UDF is based on that selection list. Now, when I do the integration, let's say I have a new legal employer, which is the 4th one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In the integration, I don't add it to the UDF itself, right? I add it to the selection list.
Yeah, exactly. It's a selection list.
Okay.
Usually, I never actually created a UDF through TCC. It's a simple way of just go ahead and create it with your, you have more control when you create, how many, like 50 UDFs you create maybe in an implementation. And even there are 2 types of selection lists. One is a short selection list, and the other one is a large user defined list, right? So
Right.
The integration we use to update large user defined selection list. For example, the cost centers list.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the that list. It's every day you may big organization, every day you create LUDs, right? So it's better you use that if you are using that placeholder in a requisition or somewhere. It is always advised that you use that specific attributes as a large user defined list, so that you can use the integration to keep those list of cost centers updated. But there are few list of 5 selection lists. There is no use of using the integration to update those selection lists.
Okay. Yeah, I get your point. Okay. So if it is less maintenance, why do we need to bother with the integration? We can tell the user, you just add another legal employer.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
Makes sense. Fair enough.
It's usually the list of cost center, list of countries, language. Those are the more than 100 those kind of list which usually frequently getting changed. Yeah, it's better you to go with the integration for updating, keeping updated.
Okay.
The first thing I will do is I'm gonna go ahead and create a new export from the system. Let me go there. I'm gonna export a candidate. So and there is this option here. This is called the create export from the template. If you're a beginner, if you don't know about the specific entity, how and how it is used, and what are the information you might need for that, it's always I would go for that. Now let's say there is new requirement which is to update something like delete requisition templates, right? And I don't know from where to start. I need something, right? There are few information like replacement for organization, those kind of data elements which I'm not sure whether that has to be used. I don't want to waste time in going to data dictionary and read all those stuff and come back and test it. So what I do is I always go for this create export from the template. I will have a list of templates available here, and I can use it from here. If I say finish, I have a standard new hire export already created, and then I can make changes by adding, removing certain fields so that it meets my requirement. Okay. In this case, I will create it from the scratch. It's again, there is a lot of things which you need to consider when you do the when you start creating the export. One is what is the type of mode, or what is the file format. Here you can see the TXML, XML report, then you have CSV entity and CSV report. TXML and XML report is just a report structure format, and the CSV entity and CSV report, the difference is if you use the entity, the let's say you have a candidate, let's say candidate has a user is tagged to 5 different user types, one user. Everything will come in one single row actually if you use entity. If you use report, it's a report structure of export where it will be in a different tabs actually.
I see.
One more example is you are exporting a new hire, and let's say candidate has been tagged to more than one requisition. When you use entity, everything will be in one row only. Let's say if the candidate is tagged to 3 requisition, all 3 requisition information will become come in one single box. If you use the report, you will have a different rows for different requisition, and then you will do a lot of filtering and also that you get the actual hired candidate data. So for export, for new hire export, I usually go for the CSV report, and then I'll keep the CSV header present, and the local it's usually the language which you want to export in, say the English, which I'm going to select now.
So Mr. Naveen, so in this case, in other words, I understand that you cannot do the filtering before you actually export. You cannot do some kind of filtering, because what I know is if you are exporting a new hire, even if he has 3 requisitions, there must be one of them that he's hired on, right?
For that, I'm going to put a filter once I complete the projections. Here I will use a specific filter. For example, I'm going to hire a candidate who are in hired step, right? So I'm going for
exactly. Okay. But you still prefer to use the report instead of entity?
Yeah, exactly. I will show you the difference. Give me a second. I'll show you the difference.
All right.
I'm going to save this export.
Have you ever tried integrating as well attachments, or is that possible? Or
It is possible, but I never tried it. Yeah, it is possible.
well, I know from TCC like you can export and import attachments, but I wanted to ask, how do you embed them into EBS or export them from EBS?
Export from okay. Okay. TCC is something which actually it's only deal with Taleo.
Taleo.
Yeah. What it does is it exports the data with a specific identifier or something, and it puts it in a specific folder or somewhere which somewhere from where the PeopleSoft or EBS can come and fetch those attachment and consume that. That is again, it's a different part. Now what Taleo does is it just put the file in a very specific folder so that other ERP can come and fetch it. That's the way the file-based integration works.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is I'm not going to put any filter. Now the export mode is report. Let's say I'll put it in entity. I'll show you how it looks like. Then I will start putting the filter so that I get what the data exactly the data is. And the one more thing which I'd like to highlight is we have a limit in data export and import in Taleo. Per day, only 25,000 or 50,000 odd number. You can export the import data into the Taleo, and you can export somewhere around 2 lakh rows, something like that. So
yeah, I think there is a Metalink note about which
exactly.
specify the exact numbers.
Yeah. So when you do these testing, or we'll also have to consider those stuff so that we will not end up losing all the data limit per day. And when you build these scripts, it's always it's better you consider how you're going to give a solution on this basis. Let's say new hire data what is new hire user data from e-business suite. When you send, you have to have only the data which you want to create or do you want to update in Taleo. You shouldn't be sending all the data to Taleo so that all the data will go and commit. It will check for update. If there is no update, but still it will be counted as one row.
Okay.
This is export. What I need is I need to put a filter here, but you can see that this is how it looks like when you use CSV entity. We use the CSV entity. So that's why
Yep.
everything will come in the same,
Same cell.
Yeah, cell. Yeah, exactly. And which you may not want it in this format, right? You
True.
want it to be one cell, one specific data. So that's the reason we use CSV report. Okay. And let me search for. What I'm going to do now is I will change this to report in the projection or in the filter. Will add equals to okay. Oh, now I'll run it. You can see that the filter it gives me only the data which the candidates who are in the hide status. Hide step and hide status. Yeah, this is how the filter is incorporated. Now, one more thing is I would say now you can see that there is this data format, right? Let's say you want to have a different data, a date format to be exported. For that you have to use a different.
Question.
Yeah.
Now, for example, this is the first iteration, okay?
Yeah.
And we got 15 people hired.
Okay.
And you put them into the file, and they have been moved where to EBS, okay? Now, let's say you schedule this for every day. The next day, the same export, let's say nobody new is hired. These 15 people again shows up in the export, right?
Yeah, okay.
So again, when they move them, are they going to be moved again into EBS, or we can limit this? Like whoever has been moved to EBS, don't move them again, or the system will validate that, or how is it done? Because like if every time like new people are hired, the list becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and as you said, like we have role limitation. So how can we make the system not to pick up the people who are already moved to EBS again?
I'll show you that. I'll show you. We have different stuff where, yeah, as you said, that's one of the key requirements for any new hire export actually. This one is changing the format of the data. That's one date format, and the other one is the second one. I will get into that one.
Okay.
Now here you can change the date format to the format in which you want. Current extract is giving in this format, which is the default date format. If I date format now. You can see that the date format has been changed here. Okay.
Okay.
Now we have a thing called last run date, which what it does is it will see for the records which was ran in a previous run, and it will exclude them from the run which it's going to run now.
Okay.
Okay, that is called as last run function. And we'll have to decide what is that field which you want to consider for the last run. Usually I would go for the CSW latest date, which actually last time when the CSW has been changed, so it will consider that and it will run accordingly. Since that script has already run, when I have to insert it, I'll have to use the new. When I insert the last run function, I'll have to use a new function, new export file, or sorry, configuration file. You can see that
none of them came.
Yeah, the reason is that was already ran, right? So any new changes happens, then only it will consider in the next run, and then it will run. And if you go to configuration file, it has to be post processing. Yeah, you can see that the prepare last run date. What it does is the last run date value is currently considered as 12/1. So this is the time which actually it captured. The last run date was this, and this time zone. In the last run there were like all these records which needs to be when you run it in the next run, it will ignore those record, and it will only run for those record and extract data which is a new record which comes to specific step status, whatever filter you have set.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. What else I can do? And there's one more functionality called no, we can say decoding. Uh, What's that I want to know? Sometimes you would like to have a different value exported, right? Against, let's say, if Taleo is giving you true false, you want to have a yes no type of extract in the extract newer extract. So in that case, you can use a decode function. With, which will I would say. Please, get the data first and then I'll add it. Here you can see that the same value here, internal application which I have used for SNO function.
Okay.
It can be used for just to change the values, whatever the if you say if the value is requisition, how can we say it? Some specific department, for example finance, then the value has to be decoded into something which the third party system understand and consume the data. So those kind of things can be used by using decoding.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. You have any questions on export?
Not really. My main concern is the part where how do you make the system export it to a certain, as you said, you have to put it in a folder, right?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you schedule the process? What happens? Will it update the same file, or it keeps on generating a new file, or I think it overrides the file? That's what I'm assuming.
Okay. I will be showing you those scheduling part in tomorrow's session.
Okay.
Okay, just to give you an idea, it depends how there are nowadays these organizations come up with certain tools which actually they act like some of the application they call it as enterprise bus. What it does is it actually it runs every whatever the schedule they have run, and what it does is it actually archives those files which was run in the today's run, or you can also have a batch file run in a way that when you export the data, it actually produces today's date as a export date, so that the consuming when the other system consumes the data, it actually sees for the date for today's date file, and it only consumes that. And in that case, all the files which run every day, which will come go and sit in that specific folder with a different date, so that we can even go and see that, and for troubleshooting or for any reason you can access that folder anytime you want. It depends. It's actually, I would say, the way you want it to be. The last implementation I done, they had this file name. The requirement was to have the today's date at the end when you export the data. So their PeopleSoft system can identify that, okay, this is the date since it's a system date is this is the date which I need to consume. So they just pick that file and consume it in the system. The same way goes for the other way, for Taleo as well. Taleo also see for the file name with today's date, and then that consumes the data into the Taleo system.
Okay.
Just to view.
So they wanted to keep all the old files, basically. That's why every
yeah,
time you're
exactly.
renaming the file.
Exactly.
But don't you think this at the long run, like you're gonna have hundreds or thousands even of files later on? Wouldn't that be a problem for them later on?
If they want to track it, and later they can have another script run to move those files every week maybe to archive folder so that they can access it later if they want. But end of the day, that is a requirement. Usually they prefer to have those files in the system, so anytime they can go and check. Let's say there was one in a large organization, it's everything they want to be automated, right? They don't want human interference. And let's say 1 week before, there was supposed to be one guy who should have been hired in the PeopleSoft system, but he was not hired. Then if you want to track that, first thing what you do is what is the current state of the candidate here, and when did the candidate got hired in Taleo. So then you track back to that folder where it got extracted. You go to that folder and see that, okay, this date this candidate was supposed to be extracted from the Taleo system. Is he there in that file? If he is not there in that file, they will check for 1 day before or after, so that they can track where is this candidate now, right? So to do all those stuff, yeah, of course you need those data in some way so that you can do the troubleshooting.
All right. I have a few questions as of best of practices as per your experience. For since we're talking about export, usually you only export the new hires, right? You don't export other things from Taleo, usually, right? Okay. Now when you export the new hire.
So sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, best practices regarding the export. Okay. Usually you only export new hires, right?
It depends. No, I don't say that is the best practice. These are the requirements usually. Some organization the requirement would be they create a requisition in some different application. Okay. They use the hiring managers go to different their procurement tool where they raise a ticket for one vacancy. That actually data will become once they create and save it, the data will come to Taleo, and that requisition get created, assigned to a specific recruiter. They work on it, the status, everything will selection process will happen, and finally the candidate is hired. So now what they want to do is they want this status of the requisition has to go back to that procurement system and update the requisition or ticket to status to closed. Okay, there are different requirements, different touch points, different requirement for each and every different customer. It depends, but most of the time, yeah, I agree. New hire export is the one which we usually do. That is the one mandatory. That is, end of the day, there is one thing which is very time consuming. So this is one thing which all the customers go with, new hire export.
Okay, and now new hires could be internal, as you showed us, and could be external. Do you usually do them in one export, or do you make two filters and you make them two scripts into two different files?
It depends. If the ERP guy say that I want it in different file, we give it to them. If they say no, I want it in the same file, then of course we give it to them in that same file. The challenge or the actual work is for ERP guy to consume that data, right? So
yes.
No, when I talk about when I sit in the data mapping sessions, I would say for all the imports, I tell them that okay, I need this data in this format. This is the format I'm looking for. Okay. And at the same way, if something which is going to a different application, those guys also tell the same thing to me, saying that okay, now I need newer data from your system in this format, this sequence, and these are the filters I want, and this field has to be maybe in Taleo you have you can see that hired to, but when it comes to me, I need only hire in the extract. So those kind of requirements they give, they say that date format has to be like this, and and internal candidate, I don't want the data in the abstract. Some say I need a different file for internal, different file for external, and even if it's a multinational country, and if it's multiple country implementation, each and every country has a different process for hiring, right? So there again you will have multiple extract for new hires depending on the country as well, because some country need some fields which is mandatory for them to hire a candidate. Some country may not need those fields to hire a candidate. So again, that is also you will have a new requirement for that. Am I clear? Okay. Hello. Okay. Shall I start? Sagir?
Ahmad?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Do you have any questions on new hire export? Anything you want to know?
Yeah. Back to the export. Like, I know maybe it's not part of Taleo, but I don't know if you talk to the ERP people. Usually when they do you export from Taleo, they import it to their system. Do you know if they usually import it as applicants, or they import them as employees directly?
Okay, there are different way it can be achieved. Let's say they already have one recruitment system or a module within their ERP system, and if they want to prefer it to get the candidate through applicant and then they want to convert it, yeah, that is. But the usual scenario is always they usually hire the candidate as an employee. And in PeopleSoft we have this option called convert to employee, right? I'm not sure what is the exact terminology they use. What it happens is they just get the data in the system. On the day of joining, some administrator get into the system, they just select the candidate record, and then they actually convert the candidate into an employee. So then only the candidate record, employee ID will get created. It depends by customer to customer.
Ahmad, usually in EBS and in Fusion, it is something called a pending worker. So usually it is created as a pending worker, and then you process the pending worker, he becomes an employee. Only when he becomes an employee, not when he is a pending worker. So all this new export will get created as a pending worker. So someone from that system has to sit and process that pending worker to an employee. That's how it becomes.
Then only the employee ID get generated, so you don't waste that sequence and all, right? Those are the things which you may want to consider. That's why they just integration just put the candidate data in the system. It is ready to hire the candidate. It's just that when the candidate arrives on the premise on the specific day, when the candidate completes their formalities, everything, and then when they decide, okay, this candidate has joined, so they just go to the candidate, search for the employee or candidate, and they just click a couple of buttons to convert that candidate data into a hired employee in the system. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay.
That's it for the export.
Okay. Okay. In that case, I will get into let's say, should I do the? Okay. Do you have any requirement in terms of export? So that I just close the export for today. Then tomorrow we'll do the import, and then I'll show you the scheduling part of the TCC schedule, import export script.
Just a second, Venkat has a question.
Okay.
Yeah. Venkat is asking here, but I think the this training only has in scope for the Taleo to the middleware, right? It has nothing to do on how data is passed from the folder, you call it, or to e-business.
Yeah, it's this training is still that data is passed to that specific folder. From there, how the e-business application consume the data? No, we're not covering that.
Okay, let's say usually when you sit with the ABS guys, okay, and you try to map from their side, that will be covered in the import at least. Like what questions you ask them, how the mapping is done, these things, right? You're gonna show us a sample file of what you have, what you get from them. Okay, you will try to import it. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we usually use certain, we know what is that we need to create a user in the system. So yeah, I will show you those files so that you will get an idea about how and what are the fields which you need to create a user. Definitely.
Okay, and specifying the folder and the path is done in the configuration file, right?
Yes. But when you use bash script, that will become irrelevant because I'll show you that. Okay, here you can see that this is the export script which you have set that predefined value here, and this is what it's going to create as a this is the folder, and this is where it's going to place the extract data where it will get a candidate name and that. Now when I use batch script to execute this script on a specific time, what I'm going to do is I will put this as a provided in the client parameter. In the batch script, I will give the path saying that I want to execute this configuration file, and then I will also say that I want the extract to be placed in this specific folder. So that batch script actually drives the exact place and the format, all those things, the name to be placed in that specific folder. Everything will be managed from the batch script, not in the configuration file when you use that scheduling option. But if you're doing it manually, then yeah, of course you always say that I want to place this in this specific folder, this is the identifier, all those stuff. But yeah, this will be clicked like this will be selected like this, because I would say I just have to say that I just have to say to in the batch script saying that I'll create a batch script. I'll say that this configuration file to be executing this extract file, and then place that folder in the specific server or a place where I'm instructing that batch script to do. So that's how it works.
Alright, and you're gonna show us how?
Yeah, exactly. I'll be showing you that tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Alright. Alright. So yeah, we're okay with the export from Taleo file.
Okay. So maybe tomorrow I will show you how to import users. And do you have any other requirement from the import perspective? I can show you user one, and then I can get into scheduling part where I will use batch scripts to execute those scripts and place that in the specific folder where I want. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I think the import and the export you showed us, it's almost similar to what we do in data migration, right?
Yes.
Like you have to select the projections, the columns, and there are a few functions that I didn't know about, which you showed us today, like decode, the last run. But yeah, and then you can use only the user. But my main point is the scheduling part. How do you
the batch script that you talked about. Okay, and
Yeah.
can you give us an example in like how do you map things with the PeopleSoft, or
Okay. Okay.
how is the mapping process? You sit together, is it like a session where you send them, you just send them files, like tell them I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this format?
Okay. I would say it's a workshop. Usually we sit with a technical guy from the ERP system. It can be PeopleSoft or eBusiness or a Fusion. They know their system, I know my system, and since I'm doing the import, I will be the guy who is driving that session for import, and if it is export, they are the guys who will be driving those sessions. When I say driving, you come up with a list of fields. Let's say I'm doing the new hire export session, and the ERP guy will say that, okay, to hire a candidate, I need all this information from the Taleo system. Okay, and then we sit and say that, okay, the first field is, they say the candidate, employee number or candidate number. I will say, okay, this is the candidate number in Taleo. So this field and this field will be mapped. This will be sent in this format. What is the file form, field form, specification? Let's say whether it's alphanumeric or numeric only, it's a text field. Those things also we map it, and there are few fields. Let's say there are elements like education list, highest education list, right? So they may have a different list of values in their system. So we'll have to map that as well. If this value is candidate select, then this is the value should go to PeopleSoft or eBusiness and sit in this place. So we also discuss on those factors and what are the possible values and what is that they are expecting from us when it comes to extract. So at the same way for sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
At the same way for import, I would say for creation of a user, I need 1, 2, 3, 4 fields, and this is the data format, and there are a lot of rules you need to build in the ERP system. For example, who will be getting the manager access, hiring manager access, who will be getting the normal employee access, who will be getting the recruiter access. That rule has to be built somewhere, right? So we'll say that, okay, that is your system, that those record you already may be managing those securities, all those stuff. So you say that, okay, if the candidate is the employee or a user is above this level, they should have this access, and if they are from finance, they should have this contextualized group or a coverage area to be mapped to, so that they can only see those data which they have access to. So those are the things which we decide there. There will be a lot of requirement, and when we do the functional workshops, we would have come across all those questions. They would have told you that, okay, I need the security structure to be like this on business unit wise or department wise. I need data security to be in place. So on that basis, you also have to consider those points has to be considered when you do the user import as well. So I don't want any user or administrator come to system and give access manually. I want everything to be happen from the integration, and we need to decide what is that rule and how the data format has to be extracted from the PeopleSoft or the EBS, so that I can consume it with seamlessly.
Okay, understand. That's why if tomorrow, if possible, if we can start like with a real life sample data, you show us how it comes to you, and you do the import for that. Okay.
Okay.
And the scheduling and the batch script.
Okay. Great. Okay.
And so let's use real data sample templates.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Okay. It will be because it will make more sense to us if that's the case.
Yeah,
But as you know, I think in even in ERP as itself, whether it's Taleo, I think the design itself is the most difficult part. I mean, I think the execution is just steps, but the design itself would actually make this system a better, or the solution a better solution or not. So yeah, we have no experience in the things that we need to ask. Like you're right. There are a lot of things you have to take into consideration, and this will come with experience, of course. And that's exactly what I like. Let's try to focus on that a little bit at the beginning.
Okay.
What to take into consideration? What are the usual questions that you ask them?
Great.
So on.
Yeah, of course.
When let's move the employees. Okay, who's the hiring manager? Who's the recruiter? Who will have the recruiter confirmation file? Who will have the key? Is security involved? How is the security maintained? How these questions that you usually ask, because as you said, since you are importing, you're the one who are driving the session. So an example of a workshop, like you are driving the session and you tell me the questions that you usually ask for the employees.
Okay, great. Yeah, of course. We will do that in better.
Perfect. I would really appreciate that.
Yes, good. Most welcome.
Okay, so I guess for today's session,
Yeah.
we can begin at it.